Are y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do, because we would really appreciate the love. Shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing intro music. We always appreciate that. You can follow us at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. And find me with my shop. I have a shop called War Woman Goods. It's on Etsy and on my website. I have an amazing guest tonight at SOR. I have Barton Nunnelly here. The birthday boy is here backstage. Don't forget that right after our show, After Hours has a great program set up for you tonight. So let's get to our guest. Cryptid researcher and investigator Barton Nunnelly is a self-taught writer and artist. He was born and raised in Henderson, Kentucky, where he spent decades searching the bottomlands of the Bluegrass State for evidence of its diverse natural mysteries. His wanderings have brought him face-to-face with creatures such as Bigfoot, water monsters, black panthers, out-of-place wolves, and other mysterious cryptids, including a Thunderbird back in the 1990s. Something no other living researcher can presently claim. He's been published in children's book. He's an amazing artist, and he has a whole bunch of books that he has published. We're going to talk about all those tonight. I'm going to bring them up at the end of the show, and he's also been featured on a boatload of TV shows and documentaries. And I would like to welcome to the show tonight, Mr. Barton Nunnelly. Hey, Barton.
Hi, Jessica.
Hey, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And happy birthday. I want to give you the hugest birthday shout out from Spaced Out Radio and from myself.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just tickled pink that you came on the show tonight, considering it is your birthday. So we're going to have some fun. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Barton, I wanted to talk to you tonight about something that is so amazing. I really like how you've made a distinction between, we like to consider Bigfoot cryptids, a cryptid, Dogman, all these crazy cryptids. I call them cryptids. I call them cryptids, but you say they're Inhumanoids, which they are. So I'm a little worried. I'm going to have to change my name to the Inhumanoid Huntress on Monday morning. Okay. I'm going to have to rebrand.
Well, so cryptids are just natural animals, Jessica, waiting for classification or discovery.
Yes.
Bigfoot and Dogman and Mothman and Goatman and all, these are something clearly different. They're beyond science's reach to classify as of yet. So I think they're more than just natural animals. And plus, on top of that, there are no humanoid cryptids at all. If you think about it, they just don't exist. So no such thing as that. So
interesting. Yeah,
I think a humanoid is a much better descriptor of what we're actually dealing with when it comes to these creatures than cryptid. They're not like coelacanths or okapis or giant species of crayfish. There's something way beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful distinction, and I love you just wrote a book not too long ago about the Inhumanoids, and I actually just got done reading your book today, Mysterious Kentucky.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is an amazing book. I highly recommend everyone.
Thanks.
Please go purchase this book, y'all. This is a great book. There's so much in Kentucky. I mean, I'm wondering if there is something. There's something with the land out there, Barton. I mean, I can't believe all of the different Inhumanoids and cryptids and everything that's out there.
Right.
Yeah. And you've been experiencing it since you were a kid.
Yes, exactly. And I live in Western Kentucky. So I think something, might have to do with it is the presence of the largest underground cavern system in the known world there in Henderson County, South Central Kentucky, Mammoth Cave. So they've already found over 400 miles of tunnels and passageways, and they're still going strong. Every year they find more. So it might have something to do with it. Plus, we have 2 or 3 rivers that all converge close to where I live. So, that, and plus the presence of ancient Indian activity, which we have burial mounds all over the place. You know, the whole Ohio Valley is completely dotted with these things, including the whole state of Kentucky. So we have cemeteries, we have underground passageways, and we have bodies of water. And that I think that they're like a common denominator when it comes to these inhumanoid sightings. They seem, one or the other seems to be present, in most of these encounters. So, yeah.
Yeah, I picked up on that actually in your book. And plus, I'm a field researcher. And so I get a lot of, I hear a lot of reports and we go out and do our own research. But these inhumanoids in graveyards is kind of perplexing to me. Why would there be so many dogmen and the grave diggers? You have something in your book called a grave.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're so attracted to the graveyards?
Well, it's it's the place of the dead, so it's symbolic for the other world, So just like water is symbolic worlds. For life, right? In between worlds, and the underground caves and tunnels is symbolic for the underworld. So
that's a good point.
Everything's connected. Once you get past the realization that all these things are happening and real, you can start to connect the dots, and sooner or later you're going to realize, if you're an unbiased investigator, that everything is connected in the end. Believe it or not.
Yeah. I have actually come to that conclusion myself. I believe everything's connected, and which I think is very interesting, because you go out and do your own research, and you're very open-minded, and I can really appreciate that, because not everybody in the field of doing this research that we do is open-minded as you are when it comes to the connection between Sasquatch and UFOs, and just even questioning, where do these things go? I mean, is there an X factor to them? And by X factor, I mean, why do the tracks stop in the middle of the field and they just, like, out of thin air? Portals, interdimensional stuff. I mean, I have to keep an open mind myself, but I find that you have a very open mind about that as well.
Right, I do. And, I have to, with all my own experiences, who am I to call someone else's crazy? So I think a lot of the other researchers' defense, most of them have never lived in a haunted house while UFOs are zipping around outside, and Bigfoot's looking in your window, and it's all happening at the same time. You have spectral apparitions inside and all this other unexplained phenomena going on outside. So they're not as likely to see a connection there as I would be, because it's happened to me 3 different times. So, what are the odds of someone seeing a UFO? Yeah, not too good. What are the odds of someone seeing a UFO and Bigfoot at the same time in the same place? Not very good at all. Getting to be, really, really hard. So what are the odds of seeing a UFO and Bigfoot while living in a haunted house? The odds should be impossible for that, but yet it's happened over and over again, which clearly illustrates to me there's some kind of connection going on there that, like you say, a lot of people aren't willing to contemplate at all, because they're strictly adherents of science. And as we know, the supernatural is beyond our current scientific ability to even comprehend or explain in any way. We can't replicate it in any lab. So a lot of people go, if it can't be replicated in a laboratory, then it probably doesn't exist. But I don't think that way at all, because I've experienced all these things and more. So.
And people have been experiencing a lot of this stuff for hundreds of years in Kentucky.
Yes.
And I was really fascinated with, in your book, Mysterious Kentucky, about the mounds that you guys have out there, and the remains, the mummified remains of redheaded giants and things like that. I mean, and even petroglyphs that have, and pictographs that seem to have giants on them, and strange inhumanoids. So that's something that we actually have up even in North Carolina. There's petroglyphs. Judaculla Rock is very similar to that petroglyph that you guys have up there in Kentucky. Right.
Yes. So we have several different sites like that in Kentucky, and the ones that seem to show inhumanoid creatures are all explained away by archaeologists as being ceremonial or something like that. But it's So I think we'd all be surprised if we could look at our feet and the ground was transparent, and we could see all the different types of beings and creatures that live down there. We would all be very, very surprised. In Kentucky, it's probably the top place in the world for that, since we have the Mammoth Cave system. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys had mammoths up there,
Right. Yes.
giant bones, and and also giant skeletons have been found. The Native
Right.
Americans actually have certain, graveyards. I was reading in your book, and they don't like telling, regular people, us normal folks down here, not saying we're normal, but white
Right.
people. Let's say white people, okay,
Well, the reason that,
about the bones, and I don't
yeah,
blame them one bit.
no, I don't blame them either because
Yeah.
up until the late 1980s, people from Kentucky, and not just Kentucky, all over the country, would just go into these burial mounds and just dig them up and loot them for everything that was inside, and just leave the
Yeah.
bones in disarray and everything. We had the worst example in the world take place in Union County here back in 1988. So there was over 1,300 graves desecrated and robbed, and the bones were
Oh.
littered about. And this is an area with heavy Bigfoot and UFO activity as well. And so we finally did make it up there to investigate that site. We had to sneak in, and I found the remains of 10 dead pigs, and they were slaughtered. And there was piles of entrails one place and heads in another place, and it was just the scary stuff. But anyway, after that happened, we got a law passed that it was illegal to do that, and you would get 10 years in prison for robbing Native American graves. They had a big ceremony down there and everything to reinter the bones, and the people who were responsible went to prison. So, yeah, a lot of that's been going on around here, and that's why they don't like, to tell people. And we all know that, back in the 1800s, and early 1900s, that tens of thousands of these burial mounds were looted of bones, and a lot of them were said to be giants' bones and bones of a pre-Indian civilization, whatever that is. We're not taught of any pre-Indian civilizations in school, but yeah.
That's
So what happened
right.
to the bones is a big mystery, So
Yeah.
they say.
Well, and some say there were some bones found, I believe, in a cave, and they said that it was a Nordic, a very
Right.
large Nordic man, and there was a shield. And I was just thinking, the red-headed giants. When I heard that, they also said
Right.
they were holding little packages or little pouches of Indian head pennies. Okay,
Right. Which
so
totally makes no sense, right?
no,
So there were
it
no Indian
doesn't.
head pennies at all around back in the Viking
Yeah.
days. So yeah, it's all kinds of inexplicable events happened here, and it's hard to uh, catalog all of them. But I'm working on it really, really hard, and I'll continue working on it for a long
Yeah.
time to come, I think.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, is history a lie? Some of it.
Sure.
What do you think? I
I
think
think
it
it's
could be.
definitely is a lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have we all have all these I don't know, out of place artifacts, they call them. And
Mhm.
I was reading a few months ago about this old Iron Age hammer found encased in limestone.
Yeah.
And the limestone takes 300 million years to form. So the
Makes you
question,
wonder.
right? So the question
Yeah.
is, how did this Iron Age hammer get stuck inside forming limestone? And it's very easy if you just think about it and not try too hard. It's our method of dating limestone is wrong.
Mhm.
There could not be an Iron Age hammer in the middle of 300 million-year-old rock.
Oh.
So it's just not possible. So we're only left with one option, and that's our dating methods are way off, if not
Mhm.
completely wrong. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and then we can also go into the topic of time travel and portals, and
yeah,
it's
portals,
just
yeah,
it opens up a whole can of worms, really,
it does.
when you start looking into it. But it's all about looking into it and having that
Right.
curiosity to ask the questions.
It's all about the truth, Jessica,
It
and
is.
letting the evidence lead you to where the truth lies, and not you cherry picking the evidence so it can lead you to where you want it to lead you, and arrive at some false destination and false conclusion. So unfortunately for all the people out there who don't believe in them, the evidence leads to the existence of portals and
Yeah.
these things stepping in and out of these portals. So of course, everyone used to call that stuff woo, you know.
That's what we
If
call
you
it
believe in
here.
that, you're a woo,
Yeah.
woo, 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 woo. Sound like a choo-choo train or something, a 4-year-old.
Right.
But so with all the soft disclosures that's happening by our government now, I think the people who cried woo the loudest are really starting to rethink their position, or they should be anyway. We have the soft disclosure on the reality of UFOs, right?
Yes.
The government
Yeah.
spent 80 years and probably trillions of dollars ridiculing this subject and defaming the people who claim to have knowledge about this subject. All of a sudden, the government's saying, okay, they're real. We don't know where they're from, and now we consider them a threat. Okay, that's kind of, suddenly there, but it was a soft disclosure. I didn't have the President of the United States doing a live press conference or anything like that. It was just released on the news media. And you have last year a soft disclosure of the existence of human-animal hybrids.
Chimeras.
Chimeras that the government's been working on probably since the end of World War II. So they're just now saying something about it and trying to limit it, but it was struck down. The bill was struck down in the House. So now there's no limit on the ethical application of this. And there's no telling what they've created, what kind of inhumanoid creatures that they created in the last 70 years. So suddenly the existence of ape man and dog man and goat man isn't that far-fetched. You have your own government admitting that they're working with this stuff. And portals, oh my goodness, you say portals, you're some kind of intellectual diminutive. But now the government has already soft disclosed that they believe that 11 dimensions exist, and they're looking for the doorways into these dimensions as we speak. Every government in the world is spending trillions of dollars looking into that. So I think the woo crowd, their subject matter is shrinking dramatically.
Right.
So I mean, what else is there? Ghosts.
Yeah, ghosts are getting to be old news now in my book, because I've been experiencing ghosts since I was a kid. Even Bigfoot. I hate to say it, but my teams, we've dealt with the Bigfoots. We know they're real. We're like, okay, we're going to we accept it. They're here. We found them, and now we got portals opening up in the field. Okay, so let's explore these portals. There's always something else, and so there's never a dull moment when you're out in the woods, and you have to be really careful too. Now, going back to when you were a kid, Barton, you had a lot of activity on a farm that you lived on with your family, and you guys were losing farm animals at an enormous rate from all of your chickens. I mean, you lost hundreds of chickens, or 100 chickens.
Well, my dad
horses,
lost
pigs.
Yeah, everything. We lost about over 200 chickens. We lost a goat. We lost our pony. These things were bringing other animals that they got from neighboring farms and dropping them off on our property, in our fields, and so every one of the bodies were exactly the same. It was so bizarre, really. They were sliced from their necks to down between their legs, and all their soft tissue, all their entrails were removed. Their eyeballs were removed, and their tongues. No blood around any of the carcasses, and no footprints at all, even in the around the ones that were dropped in cultivated fields. Right. So this thing altogether left about eight dogs, I believe, 8 or 9 dogs on our property, and a pig. They killed our pony. It choked our pony to death, and slaughtered our goat. Yeah. So it was a really crazy time, and I'm just glad we lived through it.
So tell the audience tonight what you attributed to those deaths, because you had a monster on your property that you guys encountered.
So there were actually 2 different types of inhumanoids that were working together, and in that location in 1975. So me and my family were all seeing the classic typical Bigfoot, if you will, which looks like an ape or gorilla human hybrid or whatever. But the neighbor down the road, who played a real important part in that story, he was seeing long-haired, muzzled beings with long fangs and claws, but no ears. So he was seeing something that was definitely not the same type of creature that we were seeing. So two types of inhumanoids working together there, right? Well, for whatever reason, I don't know, but they did succeed in giving us a lot of fear, killing all of our animals, and eventually making us move out of that place.
Well, so you guys eventually moved out of there because of the activity?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's pretty terrifying. I mean, I was reading that it was about 8 feet tall, and I
Right.
wouldn't want
Red eye.
my young children. I mean, you were the same age as my son is today when all that was happening, and so I would not want my son to have to be in that danger either. I'd get
No,
my kids
definitely
out of there
not.
too.
Right. You want to
Yeah.
keep them from danger, and that. So I'm sure everyone in your listening audience had heard when they was a kid and they was scared to go to sleep, or
Yeah.
whatever. There's monsters under the bed, and your parents all told them that there's no such thing as monsters. Monsters don't exist, but they really they lied to everyone because monsters do
They
exist. And
do
I've never
exist.
told my own children that monsters does not exist because I know they do. And I make sure they know what's in those woods. So if they go there without me, then they know what to expect and what to look for, and everything's worked out fine. And I always told them don't ever swim in the Ohio River with all the things that's been seen in that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even stick your toe in the Ohio River.
Oh no, I was actually going to tell you tonight. I will never go swimming in Kentucky. Period. Okay, ever. I will
Right.
just.
Well,
I just won't. I mean, after reading about the giant, 30-foot long snakes, and
yeah,
I'm good. I'm good.
right. Well, in
Yeah,
that river, Jessica, nothing you can't see what's underneath you. So,
yeah,
and I myself have seen things in that river that I can't explain. I have no idea to even today what they are. One thing I saw that I did know what it was a giant turtle. And this was about as
yeah,
big as a Volkswagen. And it wasn't just me, all the things that I've seen, or nearly every experience with the unexplained I've ever had, has been in the company of other witnesses who saw and experienced the exact same thing as I did. So there
yeah.
was a group of 10 of us or so fishing on the Ohio River one day. And I saw this big, large ball, looked like a ball, come floating down the river. And I kept my eye on it as it was floating, toward us. And
Hmm.
when I got closer, I seen it was green, but there was some spots on it that were like brown or orangish, like a turtle color, sort of yellowish. And what was green was moss that had grown on the thing's back. It was a gigantic turtle. And on the clear spots, I could see the turtle pattern underneath. And everybody said, "What in the world is that?" And I said, "It's a turtle." And they said, "Oh, no damn way. That could be a turtle that big floating down Ohio River." And about that time, it stuck out its head and really slowly looked around at us and really slowly stuck its head back in and just kept floating on down the Ohio River.
Wow.
Must have been hundreds of people seen that,
Yeah.
couldn't have just been us 10, because that thing, it was right on top from before we first started seeing it way down the river, and it disappeared out of sight, still floating on the top of the water. So we have a lot of boaters and skiers and all that here. So,
It looked like a pontoon boat or an island or something.
well, it was as big as a
Party
Volkswagen.
on
Yeah,
that
it was
thing.
pretty
Yeah.
doggone big. It's the biggest turtle I've ever seen in my life, no doubt.
Now, was it a snapping turtle or just a
No,
regular turtle? Okay.
no, it was just
'Cause
like a
that'd be
regular turtle.
dangerous if it was a snapping
Snapping
turtle.
turtles get really big here, right? And
Yeah.
if they did happen to get that big, so the reptiles grow for as long as they live, they grow. And if you just imagine a turtle so old that it's just that big, it's a snapping turtle. It could eat anything at once, and it could take you right under the water. No one
Yeah.
would ever see you again, and no one would ever know any difference, right? So
And
the
it'll let
same with
go
the
when lightning strikes, right?
right, yeah, the same with the alligator gars. We have huge alligator gars here, and I've had reports of these things up to 14 feet long. And so they're called, also known as the freshwater barracudas. They have a
Oh,
long
yeah.
alligator-like mouth, just full of teeth, sharp teeth. And these things could eat whatever they want. And they're not just bottom feeders. They eat live bait too. So
Mhm.
if one of those or two or three was swimming together at a time got a hold of somebody, then they'd just be gone.
Oh, yeah.
Just that quick, yeah.
I'm actually gonna be doing a show next Friday night on, sea serpents. I'm going to be remote
Oh,
viewing. I think it's called Organism 46B. I haven't announced this yet. This is my official announcement, everybody. So that and probably the Loch Ness monster. And there's actually something that looks kind of like the Loch Ness monster out in Kentucky. I think it's called, is it Gabby or something similar to
yeah.
that?
Jenny.
Jenny.
Oh, Jenny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it looks kind of
Yeah.
like a snake it had a duck bill on it or something.
Right. Yeah. And that was
Yeah.
seen in the 80s. At a place when the backwater come up, right along the
Yeah.
overflow, the banks of the Ohio River overflowed, and it was seen in the backwater there by
Yeah.
a young man shooting at turtles, and it was said to be about 30 foot long, and it had like a beak or a bill on it, and green spots running down the side of it. So yeah, we have a lot of things here, and
Yeah.
there's no telling what they are. Don't ask me. I don't know. I
Well,
just report them, you know.
yeah, well, you're very observant, and you've taken a lot of reports from people over the years, and some of those that stick out are like vampires. And I was reading a story about a vampire, the Sturgis vampire, and it kind of sounded like a dogman to me. Now, you don't really label these things, right? They're like inhumanoids, and because they could kind of all mesh together a little bit as far as dogman goes,
Right.
if you want to lump them, but they don't all have the exact same characteristics.
No, yes,
Um,
right. Yeah. So
yeah,
dogmen are, you know, they all these things I believe are coming from the same source, right? The manifestations of the same source, and
yeah,
whether it be a vampire or a dogman or a Bigfoot with supernatural abilities, you know, they're designed to make you think a certain way and to make you have, you know, beliefs in certain things that you really shouldn't believe in my opinion. So yeah, I do differentiate, you know, the manifestations, but I realize that these things can appear as whatever they want to appear as, you know, whatever it takes to make the eyewitness believe a certain way. That's what they'll look like to you.
right. I get that. It's almost like a weird mind control kind of thing.
Right.
And so that adds to that X factor that I talk about. That my team and I, that's what we've determined. There's just an X factor.
There is.
It's got some mind control stuff going on. Cat Chaser, thank you for that super sticker. We appreciate that. But yeah, well, I when I think of Barton Nunnelly, I think of Dogman. Okay, Inhumanoids, like the Dogman at the LBL, and you and I have talked about this before. Actually, I stayed up kind of late with you and Josh the other night talking on a podcast,
Right.
recording one. That was fun. I don't remember what I said
It
at
was.
the end because I was so tired, but it was a lot of fun, and we did talk about the LBL, and you spend quite a bit of time there. Um,
Right.
Tell me your thoughts on the LBL and the history of that area.
Well, everything was fine there until the government decided to build a dam there and displace thousands of people and take their land, you know, and excuse me. But even before then, the land was, the whole state of Kentucky was considered to be cursed by the Native Americans, you know, because so many people have died violent deaths here. But after they did that, and they took the land, they built a dam, and they flooded all the people's houses and stuff like that. Everything really got sort of ramped up there. It's like the evil that lurks in the land between the lakes. It really started to wake up even more. And so, how I feel about the dogmen there? I feel that the dogman there is a flesh and blood physical type that have been genetically created by the government for whatever reason. Who knows why they would do something like that, but we already know they've been working on that. So I think they're a physical type of creature down there, and it's killing people. And I think someone should do something about it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's
Especially
interesting.
when I hear that it's killing children, that's no good.
Right. And the government's covering it all up. And so, I've looked into it with my remote viewing, and yeah, there have been a lot of attacks there, a lot of death, a lot of destruction, and it's all covered up. I also have picked up that there are bases and facilities underneath places like the LBL and the Joe Bald Recreation Area and a lot of these national parks that we have around the country, and they're doing experiments with chimeras. And it's my belief, just from having all that data that I get from doing that, that they are creating these dogmen down there, or at least they're housing them there, perhaps to be super soldiers or something. There are people that will argue that and say, no, there's no way. But I mean, I can't disagree with my data. I stand by it.
Right.
So,
Well, I believe the same way. I also believe Jessica, dogman is a relatively new term. It's only been around for 20, 25 years. So if that long. And before that term was coined, people called these things werewolves. And so, that werewolf, it's a cultural archetype that goes back 2,000 or 3,000 years, So there is a different kind of dogman, and the werewolf, I think, it's a supernatural version of that. The government has created one variation of the dogman, and the other is more related to the evil spirits of the earth, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually did a show last night on the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama. Okay. And I did remote view that. And right off the bat, I was thinking it was going to be a feral human because, we have feral humans throughout history. And it just sounded like that might be a feral woman. Okay. Who took up with a pack of wolves or something. But I immediately picked up on her being, it wasn't even a her. It was and it was a werewolf. And there was a lot of black magic involved and a lot of demonic energy down there. And I think it had a lot to do also with that land and the energy. There was a lot of racial tension down there at the time in 1971, race riots and things like that were going on. And so I think that all that really bad energy down there, it just kind of was a perfect storm for this inhumanoid, to manifest down there.
Yeah. So a lot of times, even here in Kentucky, I've come across evidence of satanic activity in the areas that these inhumanoids are seen in, like LBL, for example. There's a lot of satanic activity there and the surrounding counties. And, even here where I live in Henderson County, you drive and see satanic symbols in a lot of the, places, satanic graffiti and such. And I've talked to people who have come across places where they conduct their rituals here. So, it's a lot of, unfortunately, that's a part of the Bigfoot Dogman mystery, and it's something that you can't overlook, really. If you know that satanic activity is going on in the area that you're seeing these dogmen, and you don't just gloss over that and ignore that fact, you have to take it all into consideration. If you also uncover that UFOs are really frequently sighted in these locations, then shouldn't you consider that as well? I mean, we know nothing, right? So if we know nothing, then we should take everything into consideration when we're trying to reach conclusions about these inhumanoid creatures. And the simple truth is that UFOs are often sighted in the same areas as inhumanoids, and there is definitely a connection between UFOs, Bigfoot, and Dogman. If not all the inhumanoids, it's more likely every inhumanoid that I wrote about in my book. And you said I just wrote that book, Inhumanoids, Jessica, but actually it's 13 years old.
It's 13 years old. I did not realize that. Oh my goodness. Yes. Wow. Let me see. I actually have a picture of all of your books here. I'm not sure. You only have 4 books? You have more books than this, I'm sure.
4 books. No, that's it.
Okay.
I'm working on one right now, but it's taken me forever to write. So.
Well, you are an amazing writer. I know you're self-taught writer and an artist. Now, everybody here to know, if you didn't already know, Barton is the artist who drew the sketch of the Beast of the LBL. So this is your artwork, Barton. I've been seeing this for a long time now, and I had no idea you had drawn that. So I didn't know you, I guess. So
right. Well, that sketch there, I did that in 2006. For Jan Thompson down at the LBL, and she had some experiences, her and her cousin there, with this creature. Attacked her house one afternoon, and she wanted to know if I could sketch it. And I said sure, and it took me like a week or so, or probably closer to 2 weeks to get it right. And I would start with a basic image and email her that image, and then she would tell me what to change, and I would do that, and then eventually back and forth. She said, "Okay, stop. That's just what I saw," and that's what she saw right there. And interestingly enough, Martin Groves, the witness that just came forward from the other side of the LBL, the Tennessee side,
who's in the chat tonight, by the way. He's here.
Okay, hi, Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Hi, brother. He says this thing looked exactly like what he saw as well. So we have 2 eyewitnesses separated by a decade of time seeing the same type of creature. So that's very interesting. Yes.
Wow. That's really interesting. And, I was actually I was snooping around your Facebook today, okay, because I'm getting ready for the
Okay,
show.
yeah,
And I found, you do spend a lot of time in the LBL. You've been there quite a bit. And this
yeah.
is what do y'all call this? The Hotel California?
Yes, that's
That
Hotel
is
California.
creepy, by the way.
It is. We should be there at 11 o'clock at night. If you think it's creepy now.
Did that used to be a hotel or some sort of
No,
motel or something?
that was a private home. An ex-riverboat captain built it for his wife, but he sure did a good job, and you hardly ever see homes built out of that much concrete. But yeah, it was a private
Yeah.
home.
Well, I bet at nighttime it is horrible. I bet it makes for a good photo shoot though, for people that want to go take pictures.
Yeah,
At the
right.
LBL.
But nighttime, it's just black as the ace of spades. You can't see anything. We was down there with my wife, and I was down there with Elijah and Gabby Henderson. Johnny Henderson's late Johnny Henderson's
Yeah.
kids, and we stayed there till about 11 p.m. blasting call blasts of what you thought were Dogman howls. Nothing happened, but it's not for lack of trying. I've been down there several times trying to get something to come out, but haven't had any luck yet. But hopefully this next time we'll have some luck.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the passing of your friend, Mr.
Thank you.
Henderson. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I know his
terrible
legend
loss.
is going to live on though, and you're you're a good friend.
Well,
I've talked
thank
to
you,
you about that
Jessica.
before. Yes.
Appreciate that.
So, yes. Well, there's so many more other inhumanoids that we can talk about tonight. I know we have a few more minutes left. What about the Kentucky goblins, Barton? That is
Okay,
something
so
that is really interesting to me because I've actually
right,
studied them before, and that is one of the other main. I guess you call them inhumanoids. I
yeah,
guess
right.
out of
So
Kentucky. So
yes,
I actually have some pictures I pulled up. I've remote viewed this whole incident before and did a show
right,
about it. So, what are you familiar? I know you're familiar with it.
sure. It happened in
Yeah.
1955 to the Sutton Langford family in Hopkinsville, Christian County. A lot of people think Hopkinsville would be in Hopkins County, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's not. It's in Christian County. Yeah, so very familiar with it. It's one of the most well-documented UFO cases in history, and I think probably the first case of an actual attack on a family, if you don't
Mhm.
count the death of the decorated Air Force veteran Thomas Mantell, which happened in 1948 in Jefferson County. So yeah,
Yeah.
crazy things happening here, Jessica. What did you see when you
It was
remote viewed these
wild.
little things?
Well, I can tell you the thing that really stood out was that they had their eyes on the children. Okay,
Yeah,
it was they were actually there trying to study the children. Now, were they trying to kidnap the kids? I don't think so. I think they were there to try to communicate with those children. Uh, I'm not exactly sure. Okay, but it was very creepy, and those men did have a right to shoot those things. I would have too.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we do in Kentucky. We shoot first, and then
yeah,
let the police sort out the mess later. But you don't come up on
yeah.
an isolated farmhouse in Kentucky and try to pull anything, and that's without risking your life, And that's why I tell a lot of people who think that the Spotsville monster, the events that happened to my own family in 1975, they think it was someone hoaxing us or someone wearing plywood feet, making footprints. And the simple
That's
truth is, if
dangerous.
that would have happened, they would have been eaten alive by our dogs. That would only be the plywood feet left of these jokers if they tried to do that. But when the newspaper and everybody come out and did the article on us, they didn't say the name of the road that we lived on. They didn't say Mound Ridge Road. I don't know if it was some kind of typo or whatever, but they called it Mound Hill Road. And so we had hundreds of monster hunters descend on Henderson County from all over the country, and all of them looking for Mound Hill Road, which didn't exist.
Thank
So,
goodness.
they're running all over Henderson, but none of them ever come near our farm, not a single one.
Thank
So, yeah,
goodness. Well, there's something that I did pick out that was similar to your story with the Kentucky Goblin story. Okay, well, you're in the story of the Kentucky Goblins, the dog ran out and was barking at these little beings, and it got scared and it ran underneath the house and it
right?
whimpered. It was scared to death. Well, your dog did the same thing when the monster, the beast,
Yeah,
it came to your house. Your dog got scared, your
right,
dogs, and were hiding underneath your house, just like that dog did. So
right.
I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so we had a little piece of underpinning to the bottom of the house missing right there by the back door steps. And we had two dogs. One was a collie and one was a bird dog. And they were really, really vicious. You don't understand when I say vicious, Jessica. I mean, even close personal family friends could not come to our house and get out of the car and walk up to our door. We'd have to go out and get the dogs off of them first, right, before they could get out of the car. So when these monsters come around, though, these dogs didn't bark or anything. They just ran straight underneath the house, and we could hear their heads hitting on the floorboards at our feet. And that's how we know that the monsters were coming. Every time we hear their heads knocking on those floorboards, my dad would say, "Oh, hell, here we go again." And sure enough, yeah. So how this thing dealt with that and not being able to kill our dogs, it went and killed every dog from every neighboring farm for at least a half mile around and brought their bodies and dumped them in our yard or in our fields. So, yeah, I didn't like the fact that it couldn't get our dogs, but it sure got a lot of other dogs.
What did your dad do and your family do when the dogs did that? Was there a protocol that you guys had, or did y'all just hunker down?
Well, we'd hunker down in the kitchen by the fireplace with Dad with the shotgun. The doors all locked, of course, and usually no lights on, just a fire going in the fireplace. So we had experiences before 1975, Jessica. In 1971, we lived about 10 miles away, or a little bit less than that as the crow flies, and also on the banks of the Green River. And we was living in a house that I had Bigfoot activity. I didn't find out till years later, that it actually had Bigfoot activity there. The people that lived there before us, but it was a perfect house, just like Mountain Ridge Road for us kids. It had a lot of arrowheads in the fields outside. We go out every time it rained and pick up 30, 40 arrowheads each. And same way with this house. But we moved out of this house because one night my mother saw a red glowing flying saucer or UFO come down from the sky and land behind one of our old barns out there. So we had to vacate that house. That happened in 1971. We moved to the city for 3 or 4 years, and come back in 1975 and just happened to move into the Mountain Ridge Roadhouse, which was a lot worse than the first one,
Wow. High strangeness followed your family around.
Right. So after that, we moved back into the city for 10 more years and moved back to the country. There was a location in between those two, and I'll be damned if that wasn't haunted. And the same thing going on there as the other two houses. Bigfoot sightings all around, UFOs, black panthers, wolf-like creatures, just everything going on all at once. So we lasted there 5 years, and we finally give up the country living and just moved to the city, and that's where we've been ever since, really.
Wow. Now, did any of your neighbors have accounts of high strangeness?
Oh, yeah. I've talked to people from Henderson County that have encounters at Mountain Ridge Road as far back as 1935. These creatures would get bold. At night, we could hear them screaming outside and everything, but they eventually got bold enough to approach our house and turn on doorknobs, and knock on our walls and stuff. But if we thought that was bold, the people that lived there in 1935 actually had this thing come into their living room on them. So, yeah.
Oh, no. It's a whole other level when they open up your door and turn your doorknob and come in your house. That's
so usually,
off limits.
Usually these things have a problem with crossing thresholds, windows and doors, mainly doors, but windows too, evidently, because you got a thin pane of glass between you and this 8 or 10 foot Inhumanoid. It can come in there and you can break the glass and come in. It can knock that wooden door down. They could probably tear out a whole wall if they wanted to and come in. But they don't ever do that.
Yeah, they don't. I've had big rocks thrown at me before out in the field. And I had a rock that it was lobbed from over a creek, and it landed at my feet by my camping chair where I was sitting by the fire. Now, if that thing whatever threw that, I have no idea what threw it. But whatever threw it, it was big. And if it wanted to hit me, it would have.
Right.
So
whatever threw it had thumbs for sure.
Had to have, yeah.
Right.
Now, are there any recent reports of attacks on people and humans in your area, and that could be related to Inhumanoids?
So no, not in my area. I a recent Dogman report, but it didn't involve any kind of physical attack or assault or anything like that. And in fact, in Henderson County, Western Kentucky, that's really a rare occurrence, right? That somebody actually gets physically attacked. They might think that they're going to get physically attacked, but let's put it this way: if the one, that actually got physically attacked, if that really happened, then we never heard about it. They didn't. I don't think anybody could actually get away from these things if they wanted to come get them. Just wouldn't be possible. They're too fast or too strong. They have the ability to zap you into paralysis, which is totally crazy and bizarre. And they have the ability to turn invisible at will, which is unheard of. So I think all the researchers who insist on clutching that relic hominid theory, that they're the old guard and they're not going to last very long. So we have a new wave of truth coming out. The narrative that these people have been feeding us for the last 50 years is crumbling. And we're actually trying to spearhead it's like a revolution to replace the narrative, the false narrative, with the truth, even though it's impossible for someone to believe, it's still the truth. And Josh Turner and I have been, he was a part of this too. We had a really ambitious project going where we're recording with a bunch of these different people, and we're going to drop all the recordings in October for Halloween. It's going to be a lot of things for everybody to listen to and digest, and they need to listen to everything and really think about it, especially the skeptics and the ones who die-hard apers. They think Bigfoot is a monkey, even though no relic hominid or monkey species in the world could mind speak in your own language or turn invisible and all that stuff. So I think here soon there's going to be a big change, and I'm glad I'm around to see it. I never thought it would happen, but I think it's finally going to happen.
Yeah, well, I think the revolution starts with people who have experiences like we've had, speaking out about it. And, and we have to have a tough skin, and we have to take these blows that people throw at us that claim that we're lying, or, how can you believe, these strange accounts? But, all I can say is this is my life and what I've experienced. And I don't expect anyone to believe it. And, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. But that's what I've experienced.
We can't prove anything to anyone. All we can do, Jessica, this is all anyone can do, is stand up and tell the truth, and don't leave anything out. We've spoken to so many witnesses who said, I told my story, but there was one part that I thought was too crazy sounding. I thought people would think I'm crazy, so I left that part out. And so all we can do is tell the truth and tell the whole truth, and let the chips fall where they may, So once you've done that, you've done your part. Of course, we can't force anyone to believe anything, and we can't prove anything. Just like the other side, the flesh and blood, they've had 50 years to prove anything. They've given us not a single answer that works, right? So just tell the truth and be true. And I've been doing it. I've been taking blows like this, like you've been mentioning, for 45 years now, almost 50 years. So, and it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah. I've only been taking them for a year. I only went public a year ago, but I've been doing this for a lot longer. So, and that's why, most of my team, I have some of my team that are very public about it. The head of one of my teams has written a book, about our research, but the other guys, they're very private. They don't even want their names said on air. So I don't even mention their names. Okay.
Well, I think it's pretty sad So when you're doing this, the only reason I'm doing it, and it's not to sell books or get YouTube likes or anything like that, it's just to tell the truth. And I think once a person comes to the truth, they should really share it with everyone. If you want to do it anonymously, that's fine, but at least let everybody know. Tell people what you found, because we're running around in circles, chasing ourselves. So chasing our own tails for 50 years. So it's time for the people who know things to step forward and say these things and tell people these things.
Yeah. What do you think about these organizations that are not including ET reports and UFOs in, like Bigfoot research organizations and even the UFO organizations? They don't want to mention Bigfoot. What do you think about that?
Very, very little of those organizations. And I can think of two, right off the top of my head, but I won't.
Well, there's two main
one
ones.
One of them, I sent my own report in when I first come online in 2005. I thought it was one big, happy Bigfoot community, everyone looking for the truth, everyone working together. to come to get answers. And I found out real quick that wasn't the case. I sent in my report to the big website, the Bigfoot website, and they totally rejected it because, it quite fit their standards of their narrative that they were pushing, that these things are monkeys. So you don't have UFOs following monkeys. You don't have monkeys turning invisible and, killing dogs and just eating their entrails and leaving the meat behind, And the funny thing is, these carcasses that they left behind would not decompose. Not even a fly would land on them. No turkey vulture would eat them. Nothing would touch them. So it's long been a theory of mine that these inhumanoid creatures are actually, they have some kind of radioactive nature about them. So, and that's really been kind of shown to me in the last few people that we have interviewed. It's really coming to the fore. Everyone thinks it's infrasound these things are using for their destructive effects on people, the paralysis and even dying. But, infrasound's not capable of that. So it has to be something different. I think it's radiation or EMF.
I was actually about to say that because with my team, most of the people on my team have Geiger counters, which measures radiation spikes. And most of the time when there's anything paranormal that happens out there, including the portal opening up or UFO activity or Bigfoot activity, anything, there's usually a spike of radiation. Okay. So I think that has something to do with it. Absolutely. And so it's a matter of us all putting our information together and our experiences together to figure some of this stuff out.
There you go. We have to do that. We have to join together and start telling everybody what's really going on, because people don't know. They think it's safe to take their little kids into the Land Between the Lakes National Resort Park and let them run around unsupervised, because they don't know any better and they haven't been told. So we need to tell people about these things so they can be better prepared for what's coming. And I think what's coming is going to be pretty mind-blowing to the public. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh Turner's in the chat. Hey, Josh, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and having people like Josh with Paranormal Roundtable, such a huge asset to the paranormal community. And Barton, you just spoke at the Paranormal Roundtable Dogman conference up in Paris, Tennessee, not too long ago.
Right. And the only person that could have done that put that together was Josh Turner. I just want everybody to know that. If not for him, I never would have been there for love or money. I'm not the kind of person that speaks at conferences,
I have a picture of you there, by the way, speaking.
Okay. So I don't really care to speak at conferences and things like that. And I've turned down more offers to go on TV than just hundreds of offers in the last 5 years. So that's not what I'm about. I just want to tell people the truth and make sure that they know what they're dealing with. And, they're not being lied to. That's basically it.
Well, that's exactly why I do it. Yeah.
Great conference. It was like the greatest conference, I think, in the history of conferences. It's so successful and everyone was so happy. No one wanted to leave. And everyone there is just like family. We formed bonds of friendship, that'll last a lifetime. So I call that the conference that never ends.
Oh, yeah.
And it hasn't ended yet.
Somebody's asking, Wendy's asking, have you shown your sword yet? You have a nice collection of blades, Barton.
Yes, I have a couple
you have a lot of good blades. I saw pictures of all those swords and daggers, spears. Do you take those when you go out in the field?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's in case the bullets don't work. I have a nice edged weapon there, and that will take care of some business if I need it for that. And that's I'm thinking, I've heard all kinds of tales about bullets, bullet holes not bothering these things, but I think if I lop off an arm or something, then that might, get its attention. So yeah, definitely take them out.
I mean, hopefully you'll never have to be that close to one. I wouldn't want to be.
Well, I'm hoping to keep my word to a friend of mine. So I gave him a couple of years ago. So I'm hoping to actually see one of these things and try to kill one, to send them a message that it's not all right to prey on people in Kentucky, and especially not children. So that's my goal. And I'm going to go one more time. I've been 3 or 4 times already with no luck. And I think I got one more time in me and to try this. And hopefully I'll succeed and won't get killed.
Well, I hope not, Barton. You just put on the armor of God every morning when you get up. And
that's why I don't fear. I don't fear doing it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't fear these things. If I was supposed to die, I think by the hand of a cryptid, I would have done it in 1975. So yeah, I don't fear going out to do this.
Oh yeah. I think that's the incident that I looked into for you, right? That I know a little bit about that one.
Yeah, that was the one where my brother and I was surrounded by invisible big feet. There's no other way to say it. As ridiculous as it sounds, we were surrounded by invisible big feet and ran off from a haunted location in between two cemeteries while we were fishing. And we never went back. It was the second scariest moment of my life. You know, the Bigfoot were very, very close to us, and yet we could not see anything. So yeah, that was the time. Yeah,
it was scary. I remote viewed that for you, and it gave me anxiety. Okay, doing that.
I was sorry about that.
It's good. I was fine. It was fine. It was my anxiety because of you, because of your experience. I was in your shoes for a moment there. So
I'm glad you weren't there. It was really, really scary. We thought we were going to die. It's that simple.
It's terrifying. Oh my gosh. Barton, thank you so much for being here tonight. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for spending your birthday with me and with our audience tonight. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Where can everybody find you? I've got your YouTube up here on the screen.
Right. So I'm on Facebook under Inhumanoids with Barton Nunnelly. I have a group there that Josh and Nellie Turner turned over to me graciously. And I'm really, really grateful to him for that. And I have a YouTube channel, Inhumanoid Encounters with Barton Nunnelly. So yeah, come on over and check me out. I'm just now starting to put up YouTube videos. I think I have one there and just filmed some more today. So yeah, come over and check me out if you like what I'm saying. If you think I'm certifiably insane, then don't bother.
Well, we're all a little crazy. Okay. So we have to be for doing this, right? Just a little bit. But yes. Well, everybody, please. Barton, thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been a treat. And I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll come back soon and come hang out with me. We've got a whole lot more to talk about in the future. Okay.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to it. Yeah.
All right. Well, happy birthday, Barton. We'll see you next time. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right. Bye. You guys, that was awesome. We just love Barton. Okay. Don't forget, right after this show, you can join the After Hours crew. They're going to take you on an incredible journey for the next 3 hours. Next time, tomorrow night, Off the Trails, my guest is North American Dogman Projects, Nick Valente. We're going to be talking about Dogman, Sasquatch, and gargoyles. I can't wait to see y'all there. But for now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. I am headed off the trails. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Y'all have a great evening, and thank you for joining us. And happy birthday, Barton. Bye, y'all.